Morning, everybody, and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Jamila Edwards, and I'm the Associate Director of District Council 37. And today is an exciting moment for us. I'd like to thank all of our political action staff, our members and activists, our leaders who spent long days interviewing and meeting with literally hundreds of candidates to get us to this point where we're ready to endorse 31 candidates, the majority of which are women and people of color. In a moment, you'll hear from the leaders of our 5 unions, 32BJ, CWA, DC 37, HTC, and NISNA. We'll then have NISNA Statewide Political Director Michelle Krenzel present the endorsed candidates. And then we'll have Candace Tolliver, Vice President and Political Director for 32BJ, lead us in a Q&A. So I'll ask that you either post your questions in the chat or hold on until the end of the presentation and use the raise hand feature. So with that, Kyle, why don't you please get us started?
Well, thank you. Good morning, Jamila. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Kyle Bragg. I'm president of 32BJ at CIU, and I'm so proud and excited to be here this morning with my brothers and sisters from across labor movement to talk about a very big step that we're taking together for the future of our city and the well-being of our workers and their families. Today, we came together as Labor Strong 2021 to lay out a course for a pro-worker city council majority with 31 endorsements of city council candidates. Our 5 unions, 32BJ, CWA, DC 37, HTC, and NISNA have a strong history of engagement in the city's political process to support our members and their communities. For the first time, we're coming together to have workers' needs, their concerns, and their voices front and center as our city plans to recover from this incredibly difficult period. Together, our unions represent 362,000 essential workers, including nurses, doormen, hotel cleaners, public service, and telecommunication workers. Throughout this pandemic, our members have never lost their sense of purpose of keeping New York City safe and running. It's only right that the essential workers who have put their lives and their health on the line every day throughout this pandemic to help New York continue and keep running have a say in the shaping the body responsible for running our city. Our members are determined to put in place a council majority who will then have the power and support to carry out policies that will help our city recover while supporting the rights, the economic well-being of workers, their families, and all of New Yorkers. I'm confident that we can work together to make that happen for a better New York for everyone. Now I want to turn things over to my brother, Dennis Trainer, president of CWA District 1.
Thank you, Kyle. And hello, everyone. My name is Dennis Trainer. I'm the Vice President for the Communications Workers of America, District 1. Our union represents 30,000 workers in New York City. The vast majority are essential. They work with city agencies like health and hospitals and the Human Resources Administration, with telecommunication companies like Verizon and Altice. They are New York City traffic enforcement agents. They keep our city informed at newspapers and TV stations. If there's ever any doubt, this past year made it clearer than ever that workers are the backbone of this city. CWA members have helped keep healthcare centers running, our city traffic flowing, and made it possible for New Yorkers to work and learn at home. We went through hell and back last year, but now there's hope on the horizon. We have a new president in Washington. The vaccine is being rolled out this year. New Yorkers have a chance to elect a new generation of city leadership that will lead us into a fair recovery as we rebuild from the pandemic. We need leaders who will fight for working families and make sure that workers are at the center of the recovery, not only in words, but in actions. It won't be easy. With growing budget deficits in both the state and city, the road to recovery will be challenging. We need partners in government who will not only see how the pandemic exposed longstanding inequities, but will seize the opportunity to rebuild a better, stronger, and fairer city. We need leaders who understand that it's more important to support and expand workers' rights than simply celebrate essential workers by banging pots and pans at 7 p.m. We need leaders who understand that broadband internet is the essential infrastructure of the 21st century and will fight to close the digital divide. We need leaders who understand that reimagining policing in this city requires real reforms, not just slogans and grandstanding. That's why we're proud to stand with our sisters and brothers in labor here today to endorse a slate of candidates who will truly meet the moment and ready and willing and determined to fight for working families. And I'll turn it over to my brother in 32BJ. No, I'm sorry, but DC 37, Henry. Henry?
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you so much to Kyle, my brother, and the rest of the labor leader, Rich, Judy, and Michelle for the presentation. But let me also thank the staff for putting this together. We have a defining moment for labor here in the city of New York. In a post-pandemic world, where so much emphasis is being applied to the election of the mayor of the city of New York. We have found in the history that if you don't have a partner in the city council, if you don't have leaders in the city council that are willing to not only speak the truth, but follow through with the support for the workers, that relationship between the mayor and the city council often fails, and we get gridlock, as we have seen in DC. I'm very proud of standing together this coalition of 362,000 workers, and let me not forget their families. In DC 37 would represent 150,000 workers, but we found the families also tend to listen to their members, the union members, when it comes to making an election for the city council. We represent the total of 383,000 lives that we provide health services for, and as we do our other brothers and sisters. Let me be very clear. When labor stands together and unified, we win. Whether it's endorsement for a particular candidate or an issue that puts the workers at the forefront, we win. We know how to organize. We know how to phone bank. We know how to knock on doors. We need to, how to have conversations about one fundamental truth that we need to do, which is values. Quite frankly, I don't want to hear any more platitudes from candidates. I want to see actions. I was appalled to hear that 163,000 DC 37 members lost their lives during the pandemic for providing services to the frontline, to the New Yorkers as frontline employees, only to find out that the reward that the city can provide to them was a pink slip. 22,000 city workers was threatened to lose their jobs after doing their jobs. That is unconscionable, and that is something that I would like not to see ever again. So we come together as a coalition, as a group of like-minded individuals who want to rehike those values in a candidate, and not just the promises and platitudes that quite often people do to get our endorsement. We're proud to say that this coalition has endorsed a group of leaders who are in fact exemplify the value, and we believe that we'll work for working people every single day. So we're proud to stand together. So thank you, and let me turn it over now to my colleague in the Hotel Trades Council, Rich Morocco. Rich.
Thank you, and good morning. My name is Rich Morocco, and I'm the president of the Hotel Trades Council, the union for 40,000 hotel and casino workers. HTC and its members are incredibly proud to be part of this united effort to elect a pro-worker majority to the New York City Council. We've always prided ourselves on playing an outsized political role. Our members are known for their political sophistication and for their activism. But as unionists, we also understand, probably better than anyone else, that there's strength in numbers, that when we join together in common cause, it amplifies our collective voice. And that's precisely what we're doing in joining with our sisters and brothers under the Labor Strong banner. In the end, we're all union members, we're all essential workers, and we're all New Yorkers. And our commonalities far outweigh our differences. And for that reason, I'm honored to be here with these other unions, speaking with a single voice on the candidates that we collectively believe will have the backs of working people. Now, this is going to be a historic election. The choices that we make this year are going to define how the city recovers from this pandemic, because the candidates that we elect will be the ones charged with shaping that recovery. And all of our members, as well as the industries that employ them, have in one form or another been deeply impacted and fundamentally affected by the pandemic. Speaking for HTC, COVID-19 has taken the lives of hundreds of our members and decimated the hotel industry. While we have an optimistic outlook on our industry's prospects for recovery, we're also realistic about what a long and difficult road it'll be. And we know, just like my colleagues, that during this critical time of rebuilding, we need champions in government. And so for each of our union members who have faced so much hardship since last March, this may be the most consequential city election of their lifetime. And with that as our guiding principle, the unions in this coalition have worked together tirelessly for weeks to assess an enormous field of candidates. And in our experience, most, if not all, city council candidates will offer pro-labor talking points and ideas. But we firmly believe that the candidates that we've selected are truly the best suited to be effective advocates for working people in their districts, at City Hall, and throughout the course of their careers. These candidates come from a wide array of backgrounds with varying experiences, but they share a common commitment to the well-being of working people who make New York City run and who ultimately are the ones who drive our economy. So we are proud to support all 31 of these candidates, and we're ready to start the work of getting them elected. Thank you, and let me turn it over to my colleague Judy from NYSNA.
Good morning. My name is Judy Sheridan Gonzalez. I am the president of the New York State Nurses Association, representing 42,000 registered nurses in the state of New York. NYSNA is honored to stand here with our brothers and sisters in public and private sector unions to elect a truly pro-labor and thus pro-worker and pro-community majority to the New York City Council. As frontline caregivers and workers throughout the first wave of COVID-19, we were harmed, we were traumatized, and we learned that the rhetoric of being essential translated into the sad reality of being expendable. We worked throughout the pandemic too often without adequate protection, staffing, resources, and financial support. We learned that our very survival would be dependent upon standing together and fighting together as one collective body, articulating what's critically needed to care for and serve New Yorkers. As workers in healthcare, the public sector, communications, building services, hotels, and really all workers, unionized or not, documented or not, we have shared interests and a common vision to defeat this pandemic, to build a sustainable economic recovery and contribute towards a more just and equitable New York City. COVID exposed the extreme inequality in our city. It laid bare the racial injustices and income disparities that harm our communities to their very core. When we look at the majority of frontline workers in New York City, we see Black and brown faces. These workers faced greater COVID exposure, illness, and death. These were the communities that sickened and succumbed to the virus at 2 and 3 times the rates of others. As nurses, we see the harm up close in our dysfunctional healthcare system. Our public and safety net hospitals bore the brunt of saving New Yorkers from COVID, but ironically, we're the most under-resourced, understaffed, and underprotected. We need to elect leaders who are committed to dismantling racism and rectifying the savage inequities that exist in our city, leveling the playing field for hardworking New Yorkers. Leaders who pledge to strengthen our public health infrastructure and our social safety net, to take the courageous steps to obtain the needed revenue to support these efforts. New Yorkers need prosperity, not austerity, recovery, not rhetoric. And we're here to support and hold accountable leaders who will work tirelessly to heal New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. We're now going to turn it over to Michelle, who will be presenting us the endorsed candidates.
Thank you. And thanks to, all of the members and leaders of our unions who screened well over 100 candidates as part of the endorsement process to really come to this decision to support the following candidates. So I'm going to share my screen so we can just go through our slate by borough. All right, so starting in Manhattan, we have Jenny Lowe, Carlina Rivera, Eric Botcher, and Keith Powers. We also have Julie Menon, Gail Brewer, Sean Abreu and Carmen De La Rosa. Moving to the Bronx, we'll have Diana Ayala. We are supporting Kevin Riley, Althea Stevens, and Amanda Farias. Moving over to Queens, we are supporting Austin Shafran, Sandra Ung, Francisco Moya, Tiffany Caban, and Shaker Krishnan, Adrian Adams, Lynn Schulman, Sylvina Brooks Powers, and Felicia Singh. And in Brooklyn, Lincoln Ressler, Jen Gutierrez, Henry Butler, Sandy Nurse, Alexa Aviles, Alika Emprey Samuel, Justin Brannon, Farrah Lewis, Ari Kagan, and Boris Noble. All right, and then I will hand it over to Candace for Q&A.
Unmute. Thanks again for everyone's comments so far. Again, I will say what most folks have already said. Our members went through a long process to get to this place where we're endorsing 31 candidates together. And we're really proud of the slate that we are all co-endorsing. So now we're gonna actually open it up for questions from press. Again, please use the raise hand feature, or you could write your question in the chat, and we'll try to get to all of your questions before we close. So do we have a question first? Throughout the question and answer, I will be calling on my colleagues from the different unions, Bob from HTC, Jeremy from DC 37, and Halen, a political director at CWA, to help answer these questions, if we get any. If not, we're just gonna smile and say goodbye.
Hi, how you doing, everyone? Jonathan Custodio from Politico. So my question is, what are some of the specific policies that the coalition would like to see instituted in next year's council if these candidates are successful?
Thank you, John. I'm actually going to turn it over to Jeremy to answer that question.
Hey, John, how are you?
Doing good.
So the big thing that we've seen this year is that there have been a lack of worker protections, particularly as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic in the city. We've had to do individually as unions, we had to do a lot of work in protecting our members on their jobs. So that's one of the things that we'll be focusing on, obviously increasing workers' rights within the city. We have a host of unprotected workers in various industries throughout the city. The city council has paved the way in introducing new legislation and new laws within the city that protects and give these workers rights. So we're going to continue to look to expand in those areas.
Got it. Thank you.
I see that we have a question in the chat, and it's, hi, this is Crystal Lewis from Chief Leader. I wanted to know why these 5 unions decided to form a coalition for the first time, and why you've decided to endorse enough candidates to make up the majority of the council. I'm going to turn it over to Bob to answer that question.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Crystal. So look, our union's demographics are all very similar. We've got a similar outlook on politics. We've got a similar outlook on what Jeremy talked about, which is really the pandemic and the rebuild. And I think we all are on the same page about understanding that even though our industries are different, we need to make sure that our city's leaders are going to prioritize an equitable return to work for each of our industries, and not just during the pandemic, but during the post-pandemic recovery. So, and in terms of endorsing enough candidates to make up a majority of the council, we want to make sure the people we endorse have the power to support those policies, and as a majority, they'll be able to do that.
Thank you. And I'll just add to what Bob said, in that all of our unions have worked together on a lot of different initiatives in New York City for many years. And so it was, sort of natural that we come together here. We all represent essential workers. We all do a lot of work in the city council and ensuring that the city council passes fair and equitable legislation for not just working people, but communities of color, because that's what our membership looks like. And so we thought it was really important to try to do this together, and we're really glad that we were able to do it together. Are there additional questions? Okay, so if there are no additional questions, we won't force you all to talk to us. We have a press release that we can send you all. I don't know if one of our communications folks wants to drop the press release into a link to the press release in the chat, or any press who didn't receive it already, you can check it out there. And of course, you can reach out to any of our shops to ask any follow-up questions. We'd be happy to talk to you. And again, we just want to thank you all for coming out, hearing us out, and understanding why we're doing this together and what our goals are. And we just ask you continue to check in with us throughout this election cycle. We're going to be doing more work together to ensure that this slate of candidates that we endorse and any others that get added to the slate are actually elected, and then push for a pro-worker agenda like we discussed. Wait, we have one more question, if you don't mind, from Jonathan Custodio. Okay.
I know, right before you guys are gonna close. So I know Henry alluded to the mayoral election just a bit, but just wanted to ask if the coalition is planning to endorse candidates in the citywide elections, in the mayoral race, comptroller race, public advocate.
Halen, do you want to take this one?
Sure, thanks. That's a good question. No, I think we will not make joint endorsements in this coalition for some of the unions already made endorsements on the citywide level. Other unions are still in that process, so we'll probably not do that together.
Got it. But individually, you guys may make your own endorsements. Okay.
I think some unions have, other unions are in the process. That doesn't mean, there can't be any overlap, but we have different processes for that.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, and because we work together so well, where there's alignment, you might see endorsements together, but we all have our individual processes in our own organizations. But we obviously, because we're at this table together, we're talking to one another. And if there's the possibility for collaboration, of course we would, but Helen's right, we all have our own processes. And some folks have already endorsed in some of the citywides and borough president races. Okay, so if that's it, then we really are going to end this time. I'll just give a few minutes, give a minute. It's 11:30. So, okay, so I'm guessing there are no more questions. And if folks do have questions, just feel free to reach out to the individual unions in our shops, and we'll get those answers to you right away. And I don't know if anyone dropped the link to the press release in the chat. We can do that again for all of the press. Oh, there it is. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Stay
Thanks.
safe.